The manager shamed an old man at the bank hours later. She lost a $3 billion deal. The bank lobby went quiet when the old man stepped forward. His hands trembled slightly as he held a worn envelope, and his shoes looked like they'd walked through decades of hard days. People glanced at him, then looked away. No one expected that a single moment in this ordinary bank would set off a chain of events that would shake a billion-dollar deal and change several lives forever. What happened next wasn't loud or dramatic. There were no raised voices at first. Just a few careless words, spoken with impatience. But those words would cost more than anyone in that room could imagine. Before we begin, take a second to support Kindness Story Hub. If stories like this move you, please subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us keep spreading stories that remind us how powerful simple kindness can be. The old man's name was Henry Walker. He was 78 years old and had come to the bank early that morning because he didn't like crowds. He wore a faded brown jacket, the kind that had been patched more than once, and carried himself with quiet dignity. Henry wasn't confused, lost, or desperate. He was calm, polite, and patient. He waited in line like everyone else. Behind the counter stood Melissa Carter, the branch manager. She was 39, sharp, ambitious, and under enormous pressure. That very afternoon, she was scheduled to finalize a massive $3 billion investment partnership for the bank. If it went through, it would likely secure her promotion to regional director. Her phone kept buzzing. Her mind was racing. When Henry finally reached the counter, he gently slid the envelope toward her. "I'd like to deposit this," he said softly. Melissa glanced inside and frowned. It was a personal check, handwritten, for a large amount. Not millions, but still more than most deposits she saw at that counter. She sighed. "Sir," she said, her voice tight, "do you have proper identification? And is this account even active?" Henry nodded calmly and handed over his ID and account card. Melissa typed quickly, impatience clear in her movements. The system took a moment to load, and she rolled her eyes. "People really should use online banking," she muttered, not quietly enough. A few customers nearby shifted uncomfortably. Henry said nothing. He simply stood there, hands folded, eyes gentle. When the account details finally appeared, Melissa's expression hardened. "This account hasn't had activity in years," she said sharply. "And you expect us to just accept a check like this?" Henry smiled faintly. "Yes, ma'am. It should be fine." Melissa laughed under her breath. "Sir," she said louder now, "this is a bank, not a charity desk. We have procedures. You can't just walk in with an old check and expect special treatment." The word "old" hung in the air. Henry's smile faded, but he didn't raise his voice. "I understand procedures," he replied. "I've been banking here longer than you've been alive." That should have been a moment for respect. Instead, Melissa crossed her arms. "Well, times change," she said. "And if you don't like how things work now, maybe you should bring someone younger next time. Someone who understands modern banking." The lobby went silent. Henry's cheeks flushed, not with anger, but with quiet embarrassment. He nodded once, slowly. "I see," he said. He gathered his papers, thanked her politely, and stepped aside. No scene. No argument, just dignity. A young teller nearby watched the exchange with wide eyes. Another customer shook his head slightly. But Melissa had already turned back to her computer, her mind racing ahead to her big meeting. Henry left the bank and walked down the street, leaning slightly on his cane. He paused at a small cafe across the road, ordered a coffee, and sat by the window. He stared out at the passing cars, thinking not about the insult, but about something much bigger. 3 hours later, Melissa stood in a glass conference room downtown. Executives from a powerful investment firm sat across from her. Laptops were open. Contracts were ready. This was the moment she'd worked years for. She smiled confidently. "We're excited to move forward," she said. "Our bank values long-term trust and strong relationships." One of the investors, a calm man in his early 50s, leaned back in his chair. "Before we sign," he said, "there's one concern we need to address." Melissa's smile tightened. "Of course. What is it?" "The man folded his hands. This morning," he said, "one of our senior partners visited one of your branches. Quietly. Without announcing who he was." Melissa's stomach dropped. "He was treated," the man continued, "with impatience, disrespect, and public humiliation." The room went cold. Melissa swallowed. I'm not sure what you mean." Another investor slid a tablet across the table. On the screen was security footage from the bank lobby. Melissa watched herself on the video. Her crossed arms. Her tone. Her dismissive words. The old man on the screen was Henry. The man speaking looked directly at her. That old man, he said, is Henry Walker, founder of Walker Financial Group, the firm investing $3 billion into your bank today. Melissa's heart pounded. He believes, the man continued, that how a company treats those with the least power says everything about its values. The room was silent. He has decided, the investor said calmly, to withdraw from this deal. Melissa felt dizzy. But I didn't know who he was, she whispered. The man shook his head gently. That's the point. The meeting ended shortly after. No shouting. No insults, just consequences. Melissa walked out of the building in a daze. Years of effort, gone in a single morning. She sat in her car, hands shaking, replaying the scene in her mind. The look on Henry's face. The quiet way he walked away. For the first time in years, she cried, not for the lost deal, but for the person she had become. The next day, Melissa went back to the bank early. She asked for the security team and requested Henry's contact information. It took hours, but eventually she found an address. That afternoon, she stood on the porch of a modest home in a quiet neighborhood. The paint was a little faded. The yard was neat. Henry answered the door. He looked surprised to see her. Mr. Walker, Melissa said, her voice trembling, I came to apologize. Not as a manager. Not as a banker. As a human being. She explained everything. Her stress. Her ambition. Her failure. Henry listened without interrupting. When she finished, he nodded slowly. Thank you for coming, he said. Most people wouldn't. I don't expect forgiveness, Melissa said. I just needed you to know I'm ashamed. Henry smiled gently. A kindness, he said, isn't about knowing who someone is. It's about choosing respect when it's inconvenient. A week later, Henry reopened the investment, this time with strict conditions. Mandatory kindness and empathy training across all branches. New policies focused on dignity and service. Melissa kept her job, but not her promotion. She accepted that humbly. Over time, she changed. She listened more. She slowed down. She learned names, and every morning, she remembered the old man with the worn jacket who taught her the most expensive lesson of her life, because kindness doesn't just change others, it changes us, and you never know who you're standing in front of or whose life you might shape with a single moment of compassion. So today, let this story remind us, be kind, especially when it costs nothing. Because the true value of kindness is always greater than any deal, any title, or any amount of money, and sometimes, it's the quietest people who carry the greatest power.